Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another round of Red Devil football. Guys, the responses have been great. So many of you are talking about it, calling in, texting in, and one of the groups that really bought into this was like that 99-2000 team. You know, your Nathan Valencias, the De La Paz's, Jeremy Armendariz, all those guys in there, Zach Iskras. They're really getting into this thing. We could not ask for more. And all you Red Devils around the world texted in. Some of the guys, Booker texted in the other day. He was talking about the 1969 team. Now, that was a team that kind of just missed out on getting into the playoffs here. Would have loved to have talked about them. Maybe at some point we will cover it, go through it. But what I want to talk about right now is this next matchup. 1968 versus 1992. I'm a junior that year on that 92 team. A lot of fun out there. I just love this football stuff. I love this ranking program. I love everything about it. I do want to talk about, we're going to start about 1968. One of the few wins against the Big Lake Owls. Rankin hasn't beaten Big Lake very much, but this year they did beat the Big Lake Owls, and we're going to talk about them. So 1968, they went 7-3-1. They beat Wall 38-0. They beat El Paso Socorro 33-0. They beat Van Horn 20-0. They lost to Coahoma 8-16. They beat Reagan County 14-7. Against the McCamey Badgers, they tied 0-0, but they did win on penetrations and brought home the Upton County Championship. They beat Clint 60-0. Now they would play a bigger, better Sonora team, and Sonora would take Rankin down 6-33. They then turned around and played Sanderson, won 66-0. They beat Ira Ann 20-8. And then in the first round of the playoffs, right out of the gate, who do they get? They get Sonora. Rankin does do a little better against them this time. And they lose, though, 13-29. Now, a little bit about that Sonora team. After beating Rankin, they would go on to win state that year. And they beat a little town called Poth 9-0. So there are some highlights, there are some great things to talk about in here and some fantastic photos. One of the things I want to talk about is a uniform they're wearing in here. They're wearing a solid white away uniform. They're wearing white shirts, white pants, they got the white helmet, and they've got a little Red Devil design on the side of the helmet there. You can't quite make it out. If any of you 1968 guys could tell us exactly what's on the side of that helmet, we'd love to know what the Red Devil looked like. But they do have a good looking maroon stripe down the middle of the helmet, and to me, we didn't get the opportunity to wear that, but I always thought that maroon stripe down the middle of the helmet is a great look for this football team. And I want to talk about these 7-1A champs. You had B. Bearden, M. Brown, and I do apologize about this. This is how they put them in the annual. You got D. Deal, B. Dixon, J. Hamilton, D. Holder, L. Holder, S. Howell, J. Kendrick, J. Kidd, K. Lester, C. McGaw, B. Parham, E. Peterson, A. Pena, J. Reed, B. Routh, J. Smith, E. Speed, M. Sproul, D. Titsworth, L. Titsworth, J. Vick, J.B. Wellborn, and B. Yoakum. That made up the starting team. They did have a B team on that group, so Rankin had a lot of kids playing football in those days, and it looked like a really great, solid team. And it says, there is a title in here from the Rankin newspaper, and it says, Red Devils nab title with a win over the Braves. And, you know, how about that? Rankin doing what they can. And there is one photo of Rankin in their home uniform. They're wearing solid maroon pants, solid maroon shirt, and they got that white helmet. And you can just make something out, but I just do not know what's on the side of that helmet. Great looking ball team right here. I can't say enough good things about them. Now we're going to talk about the 1992 Rankin Red Devils and all their accomplishments. This was another one of those fun teams, a team with a lot of great talent on it. And we want to talk about their 10-2 record. They opened up the season with a loss to Ira Ann, 18-30. They then beat Forsan 31-0. They beat McCamey 33-0. They beat Water Valley 38-22. And they beat El Dorado 14-12, and that was at homecoming in El Dorado. They had a great kid named Reagan Bounds. Now, Reagan Bounds, one of those good athletes, he goes on to play at Texas Tech, did great things over there at Texas Tech, was a starter on defense. And El Dorado selected Rankin thinking, hey, we're going to play them homecoming, we're going to knock them out. The Red Devils go in there, upset them, and it wasn't an easy upset. El Dorado has the ball somewhere inside the 5-yard line. They have 3 opportunities to get into the end zone, and that Rankin Red Devil defense holds. Great job, Red Devils. Rankin had a monster game against the Wink Wildcats that year. It was 14-7. Emotions were high. There was a couple calls, maybe more than a couple calls in that game that the Rankin Red Devils didn't like very much. And you saw something in kids like Keith Braden, Baylor Walker, Joey, Jeff Jones, Robert Guadarrama, Carlos Garcia. It brought a fire, it brought an anger, and it brought another level. And I remember after that game, Coach Sanchez telling us that game really made y'all mad, different words. And he said, man, we saw something different in the team that night. Rankin pulled off a big victory, 14-7 in Wink that night. They then beat Garden City in a close one, 21-13. They beat Fort Davis, 47-13. They beat Grand Falls, 33-0. And they beat Sanderson, 45-0. Now the Rankin Red Devils would start the playoffs. First in the chute is going to be Anton. It's the Anton Bulldogs, if I remember right. It was an area round matchup, and Rankin goes in their Rex house, 55-6, just getting after them. The very next week, they faced off with the Hart Longhorns, man, and Hart was a problem in those days. They were in a great district with Sudan, and I don't know what was going on, but in those days, Hart was pushing out great kids. Sudan was pushing out great kids. The Rankin Red Devils would fall in this game 7-24 in the regional round. Just to tell you how hard things were, that year, the Hart Longhorns went 12-2, and they lost in the quarterfinals 0-7 against Sudan that year. And Sudan would go on and do good things. But man, just an amazing district, amazing guys. I want to go into this. We're going to have a phone interview here in a little bit. We're going to talk to Jeff Jones, and we will break for that. But I want to name some of the guys off on this team. Number 10, Roy Abelos, fantastic running back. He could do things in the air. He could literally move his body from left to right in the air, almost like Superman. Don't know how he did it. A lot of people don't, but Roy comes from a great athletic family, a good Rankin family here in Rankin. Number 12, Gary Bryant. Unfortunately, we would lose Gary Bryant in a move away. They would go on to Midland. JoJo Guerra. JoJo Guerra, man, the heart of that Rankin offense, leading them out there. Great leadership skills right there. Number 20, Robbie Gonzalez. Number 21, Robert Guadarrama. Robert Guadarrama, special athlete. He could do anything you asked him to do. Robert had a bit of a temper on him. Robert was a hard knocker. Robert was a problem on the football field. I do know Robert talked to him every week sometimes these days. Nowadays, he's been in the military. Fantastic guy, a sergeant major out there at the Honor Guard in Washington. We are so proud of Robert Guadarrama. Number 25, Joey Varela. We've talked about him. Soft hands, great catcher, great athlete. Jeff Jones. Jeff Jones, the name speaks for himself, not just in football, basketball, track, everything. Jeff Jones does great things out here and did great things out here in Rankin. Number 35, Joel Armendariz, one of those special athletes. Kids like him don't come along very often. Definitely glad to have him as a part of this team. He's one of those guys, could do anything. Started in a middle linebacker position as a freshman and was an absolute problem. Offensive coordinators were trying to make sure they weren't throwing the ball in that direction. You've got Juan Batista, one of those Midkiff kids, and I told y'all, you gotta have Midkiff if you want to win championships. This is another great kid. Carlos Garcia, we talked about how good he was. Great athlete, Carlos Garcia. Number 54, Jimmy Armendariz, one of the ugliest. No, I'm just kidding. It's Boo Boo Bear, number 54, man. Let me tell you, I couldn't be any prouder to have been a part of any one of these teams. I loved it. I love every one of these guys, and I'm glad that I get to be part of Rankin Red Devil tradition. Number 56, Chris Lucky. Chris Lucky comes from a great football family. Hilton Lucky, one of the best out there. His father You got number 60, Josh Gaines. Josh Gaines, we talked about it, Midkiff kids. Number 61, Keith Braden. I could do the whole show on Keith Braden, his leadership ability, his skills, and what he brought to the table. Great athlete, great guy, Keith Braden. Number 62 with Mundo Ray. Mundo Ray did great things here in Rankin. 64, John Everidge. John, another one of those kids, comes from that Midkiff area, farming community. Great hard-nosed kids, great contributor on this team. Number 65, Baylor Walker. Baylor was an absolute beast, a monster. He was fast, he was big, he could get the job done. We love Baylor Walker. We wish we had more of him out here. Justin Presky, this is a kid that every single year he seemed to break his thumb. Never slowed him down one bit. He was an offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Literally would put a boxing glove on his hand, tape it up white, and get out there and play on that field. He never stopped. Love this kid, Justin Presky. Cody Wilson, Midkiff kid, good strong kid, great contributor. Luis Garcia, Carlos's brother, Midkiff kid, great contributor. Eugene Lance, we got Eugene Lance too late. If Eugene Lance would have been a 4-year Red Devil, he would be a legendary lineman, defensive lineman here in Rankin, but man, we were so glad that we got to get him. Jamie Wooten, tough country, Midkiff kid. This kid could do it all. Don't say enough great things about Jamie Wooten. Thank you, Jamie, for all you did out here. Tony Harris, another Rankin kid. 81, Victor Castile, Midkiff kid. Victor, elusively fast, just one of those really good kids. Midkiff, loved him out here. Number 83, Jimmy Lowe, and I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Jimmy Lowe played 4 years of Rankin football. Big, tall, good-looking kid, could get the job done. Plays only his senior year and is an automatic starter, contributor, plays a lot of football out there. Thank you, Jimmy Lowe, for coming out, being a part of this team. Number 84, Geraldo Bermea, another good Midkiff kid, great contributor on this team. Now, and then we had our coaches out there. You had Jeff Bearden, Shannon Hooker, Chris Hawbecker, Vince Fitzgerald, Coach Harrison, and you had Coach Sanchez, the head coach of this football team. And I love it out here, guys. We had guys that took all West Texas on this team. There were Baylor Walker, there were Keith Braden, there were Roy Abelos, there were JoJo Guerra, and Roy Abelos went on to get an all-state honorable mention as a junior on this team. I want to talk about those cheerleaders: Becky Abelos, Denisa Black, Miranda Chambliss, Sherry Culpepper, Kelly King, Shanna Owens, Jenny Sanchez. Man, what a great year, what a great season for these Red Devils. We're going to go into this Jeff Jones interview, and we'll be right back at you. All right, folks, we've been having a lot of fun going back and forth, and we have got some great messages and some DMs. We're going to be posting those up here on the green screen at some point during all this, and we've got some great responses, some really good suggestions by some of our exes out there. And I've got a special guest on the phone. It's going to be Jeff Jones, coach of the Garden City Bearcats and graduate of Rankin, Texas, and we're talking a gold medal superstar athlete that roamed the halls of Rankin, Texas. Jeff, welcome back, and this is Red Devil Network.
Hey, thanks, Boo Boo. I'm glad y'all could holler at me, and I'll be happy to help. It's gonna be fun. Let's talk.
What do you remember about those wild and woolly days of 1992 as these Rankin Red Devils were making their way into the playoffs?
Okay, but no, we kind of moved to the I formation that year, mainly because we had a guy like Carlos, and who could be a good fullback, had Roy standing behind him. And you mentioned their guys who came in and running back behind them, Joel and Juan, some of those guys. But, it kind of changed. Coach Kennedy moved right before that year, and we were a split back bear team and wishbone type team. And we went to that I backfield, and it kind of showed Roy's talents off after we moved to that. He had a lot more vision, and he got the ball deeper in the backfield, and it kind of made our team go.
One of the things I'm looking at right now, Jeff, I'm looking at the 1968 team. There were 7A champions that year, and they're like clones, pretty much the same size. Good haircuts, nice looking kids, look like they'll get out there, scrap with you. But a team like this, they're going to run a very tight offense. Probably a lot of wing, a little wing T, straight up T formation. How do you think this Rankin team of your 1992 team would have held up against a team like that from the 60s of Rankin? And we're talking 1968 football.
And I heard that they were studs, so it would have been tough. It would have been tough, but, I just, in my very biased opinion, I think it would have been just fine. Of course, me and Baylor were talking about this just a few weeks ago, to be honest, or a few months ago, that there was never a time that we stepped out on field and thought we were going to lose, ever. So no matter how better the other team looked on film or on paper. So, like I said, you're talking to a biased guy about the 1992 team, and I think it would have been just fine.
What do you think about those days? And do you still incorporate that into how you play? Because I do remember that. I remember, I could be timid, and, I could be quiet, and, believe it or not, I wasn't always like the funny guy, but the thing about it was when you were in that huddle, when you were with that Red Devil group, it was a rage. It was vicious. It was a stampede coming onto the field, and everybody, if you were on the sideline, if you were waiting, if you were a freshman, sophomore, or what have you, looking for time, it was vicious. These guys came onto the field fearlessly. Do you think it was more like the coaching or the time frame, or just everybody wanted an opportunity to get in there and show you what they could do?
I think it was a good mix of all that. Plus, how we were all raised. We were all raised with some pretty competitive parents, it seemed like, because we just didn't like losing in anything, and it's just every time a play came in, it's like, oh yeah, this one's going to score. Every time there wasn't a play that we thought, okay, let's just get 4 yards. Every time the coach was saying the play, it's like, okay, this should be a touchdown. It's just I don't know, it's how we grew up, and yeah, it has a lot to do with coaching. It has a lot to do with our inner drive as friends and teammates, and we just didn't think we were supposed to lose to anybody, and it was a great time,
So, we're sitting here talking about the Red Devils. We're reliving the past. We're going through some great talks, some great moments here. The last playoff game, 1992 against Hart. The clock's winding down, and we're fixing to, it's fixing to be all over. Walk me through that, your senior year, going to the locker room. What were the emotions that you had? I know that we were crying and everybody's hurting, but at that point, you got next year to look forward to. You can hit the weight room. You can come back. What was going through Jeff Jones's mind as you walked for that last time to the locker room?
Yeah, I still remember it pretty vividly, to be honest. I know the game ended, and I was just down on my knees, just right after that last play, and I just started thinking, like, crap, it's over, and you just go shake all their hands and, wish everybody well, and on that walk, it was just very, like, surreal. But it's a very hollow feeling, and I'm not saying anything that nobody else has felt. I think every kid in Rankin has felt like that. It sucks.
Well,
a better term.
You said every kid in Rankin. One memory I have of that year that I'll always carry with me, and it was one of the most beautiful sporting moments I've ever seen. It was a very painful one. Man, I'm going to try to get through this without actually crying, Jeff. So I go in there, and I'm you got to lean forward, pull your shoulder pads off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting dressed, and I look over, and Joey Varela, and, we don't say enough good things about him, but Joey's still got his gloves on, and I remember his hands are kind of over his face. He's trying to hide the tears. Golly. And he's saying, I can't take it off. And he just kept saying that, I can't take it off. And I've told other guys about that, and I've thought about it in my mind and my heart, and I think about the love and the pain that kid had at that moment. And those moments right there, I think that if I never played a play of football, if I never got to be a part of anything great, if I'd just seen that moment, I would love the game as much as I do now, because just that moment of him there saying, I can't take it off, and it took him a while to get it off. It was a very painful experience.
Yeah, it's for the casual fan out there, you really can't explain it to them, that feeling. You're talking about me and Joey going back to 4th grade, playing football together, probably 90% of the school year. You talked about in basketball, but at lunch, we still played football like all year long. I mean, and,
Yeah.
you're talking about a feeling that went back to 4th grade, and it's gone now. And, and it sets in quick and in a hurry. I mean, the longer it goes by, you still miss it, but you start smiling about it. But man, right then in that moment, there's no smiles. And, it's tough. It's tough for, and, all the football-minded people out there, it's no surprise to them. They'll agree with me, all day. But for the casual fan, it's hard to explain it to them.
Jeff, thank you so much. I hope you come back, do a little bit more talking with us about some of the other years you're on there. And we're going to see how this thing turns out today. Let's see how the 92 Red Devils do against the 1968 Red Devils. All right, folks, we're back at it. We had a great interview there with Jeff Jones. We talked about 1968. We talked about 1992. But we're here to see who's going to move on in this bracket. And that's what's going to make it fun. That's what's going to make it exciting. Who's going to the next round? So we tally it up. Let's get ready, folks. Kendra Davidson, are you ready? Let's punch up the numbers. And the winner of this contest between the 1992 Rankin Red Devils and the 1968 Red Devils is going to be that high-powered wing T offense coming at you. 1968 is going to get 58 points. And the 1992 Red Devils are going to get 13 points. So at this point, we say goodbye to the 92 Red Devils. They had a great run. Glad they were on this list. 58-13 is the final score. Stick around, folks. Our next contest is one a lot of people have been waiting on. It's 1980 versus 1999. And let me tell you, this one's going down.